What do you get when you cross Squid Game with soccer? Pretty much Blue Lock. A series that is airing in the fall 2022 anime season, Blue Lock is going for a whole 2 cores. I'm honestly not a huge fan of sports shows, but if we have great characters or some sort of twist to it, I'm usually on board, but I'm not sure quite yet if the twist that this particular series has, the whole Squid Game, Death Game aspect to it, is enough to keep me going, but it's definitely got me intrigued for the first part. But this is my thoughts on the first 2 episodes of Blue Lock, so let's jump right into it. Blue Lock opens up with a boy named Yoichi, and Yoichi is currently trying to get to the nationals with his team, and unfortunately, after passing to somebody else to get a goal, that person fails, and they lose. But it doesn't seem like it's getting him completely down quite yet. There's obviously this mindset that he has of all for one and one for all. A team is of 11 players, not just one. Seems like there's these kind of ideas that the coach has really instilled upon this team that you should never focus on yourself. Even as a striker like he is, your team is what gets you to the goal. Unfortunately, it did not work for this time. And as he's walking home after this defeat, it finally hits him. What if I didn't pass it? What if I just went for the goal? Would my life be completely different? Would I have gone to the nationals and would I have been successful? Kind of weighing on him that he's just failed his entire life as a sports player. But things aren't over for Yuichi, as he receives a letter claiming that he is a certified athlete and to come to this Japanese football union. And as he gets there, he runs into Kira, this guy that was a part of the team that just defeated him. And the two of them not really knowing why they're supposed to be there, they go inside and they end up finding a whole bunch of people. And what we're kind of getting a sense of really quickly by Kira is that these aren't just any soccer players in this building. They're all strikers. Very well-known strikers. And for those who don't know what a striker is, in soccer there is a player that's usually at the front line. They're the offense. They're the ones that get the ball to the goal and get it into the goal, rather than a goalie or defense line. Well, as all these people are standing around, eventually this guy comes in, Jinpachi Ego. And Jinpachi's a little weird. He's kind of like a very weird, almost unsettling, nerdy type. This is a guy that seems very quickly that he's the guy that knows stats. He's a calculative guy. And what he basically lays out to these 300 strikers is that Japan is trying to win the World Cup. They're tired of losing. And it seems like, according to him, they're losing because they're too focused on the team. The mindset of somebody that's in a team that's just focused on getting the ball around to their teammates in order to get to the goal. The all for one and one for all, the team is 11 players idea. Pretty much opposite to what Yuichi has been taught this entire time. But yeah, Jinpachi believes that the Japanese teams are terrible because they're so focused on that team. And it's time for them to shape up and create strikers that are ego-driven, basically. Don't worry about anybody, no hesitation, don't worry about your teammates, get it to the goal. He says that all the best players out there in soccer/football, I know I'm going to say soccer a lot, I'm in the US. All these leading soccer ball players all have ego. It's all about them. They got the goal, they focused, they got it there. They scored. So he presents to these 300 people. If you don't like it, leave. But if you want to become a World Cup striker, come with me. You'll go to this facility, you'll have special training, you won't go home, you'll stay there, and he will form you into the best striker. Now, while there's some hesitation in the room, Yuichi seems to jump onto it immediately. He realizes at some point that everything he's been taught to him seems like a lie, and this makes sense. So he rushes forward, and everybody kind of follows him, and they all get taken off to this one big, huge facility called Blue Lock. They're all given gear, outfits, place to stay, food based on what their ranking is, and yes, they're all given a number, a ranking. Yuichi comes in at 299, so he's right above the last spot, because again, there's 300. Very quickly in the first episode, we get their first test, which is a game of tag. Jinpachi says one person is it, if you get hit by the ball, you're it, and you have to get somebody else hit by the ball before the time runs out. And as this plays out, obviously a lot of people have hesitations, but then you have some people that are obviously already on the chopping block, pretty much being aggressive. And it all leads to this weird guy, Meguru, who just wakes up, kicks somebody, and then kicks the ball in the air, and Yuichi instinctively hits the ball right at Ryosuke Kira, the guy that just beat him in a previous match. And this outs him. Now Kira's life is over because if you lose in this whole entire Blue Lock facility, you don't die like a typical death game. No. Your career dies. You can no longer play soccer in Japan. So this obviously really upsets Kira. In the second episode, we get a little more insight into the overall Japanese World Cup system and how this is kind of an experiment that this one lady, Andre, basically pushed them to accept Jinpachi's idea of creating the best striker. The best way to get to the World Cup, where a lot of the other people of the Japanese Soccer League basically just, as long as we're making money, it doesn't matter if we win or lose. It's popular, we get money, Why do we have to go for the World Cup? But she's thinking differently. She wants to win the World Cup. And this all leads into Yuichi being involved with a specific team. You get an idea of the whole hierarchy system within here. Based on your rank is better food and facilities. And additionally, the very end, their team will have to go up against another team. And that's pretty much where we leave it. It really gives you a sense that Yuichi has a monster inside of him, according to Meguru. And Meguru himself believes that he's always being spoken to by some sort of monster. Something that drives him and really pushes him to do crazy stuff. Additionally, we know that after 6 months, whoever is in the top 5 of this group, of this BLUELOCK teams, will get to go play in the Under-20 World Cup. So my thoughts on BLUELOCK, I'm mixed. I'm honestly very mixed on the show. My first impressions, especially with the PV and stuff, is I don't like a lot of the character designs. This is one of those shows that gets the overly dramatic faces with the huge creepy looking smiling faces and the eyeballs that are super wide and just completely dead. It's definitely going for over the top cartoonish type of characters with their emotions and their gazes and stuff. Everybody, like half the cast, looks like they're just dead inside and psychotic, which sort of always pulls me out of any sort of reality. I get the whole intensity aspect of it, but it just never seems to work for me, unfortunately. It's similar to my issues that I have with things like Kakagururi, when it gets overtly dramatic and the characters' faces get all stupid. It's just like, it makes me laugh instead of actually go, yeah. But even still, when I actually watched the show, it didn't bother me as much as I thought it would. There was a couple characters when I seen them, I just kind of chuckled like, that guy looks stupid, even though it's supposed to look cool. But the concept of it itself, the whole death game aspect, the Squid Game, if you want to call it that. I know Squid Game is like here recent. There's been plenty of shows like this where it's a facility competition type of thing. It's just Squid Game is the easiest way to refer to it because it's recent and a lot of people watched it. That concept is interesting to me. I am kind of intrigued by that element. I think the only place that it sort of loses me is quite a bit of the second episode, and a little bit of the explanations that they're giving for each of these competitions they do gets a little drug out. Like when they have this game of tag and Kita's upset because he lost, it like goes in this whole thing where Jinpachi's having to explain why it makes sense and why his calculations on this, you know, creating the best striker makes sense. And it kind of just went, it was a lot of mumbo jumbo. It was a lot of mumbo jumbo that I'm like, yeah, I guess, sure, whatever. Yeah, sure, whatever. It was just a little bit too long-winded. And additionally, when we get into the second episode, it was a lot of just kind of laying out the ground rules about how there's a hierarchy system and this Henri girl trying to explain to everybody that this is the best system in order to create the best striker. All that stuff kind of lost me. But the games themselves, I really enjoy. I mean, even the tag thing was pretty cool. And I'm hoping that a lot of those games that are in this BLUELOCK will be just as interesting. Seeing the characters, seeing them push each other, and yes, technically having Yuichi kind of be overcome by the desire to be the greatest striker. They kind of mention this aspect that you can train a defense, you can train all these different positions, but a striker, the best of them will be at the place they need to be at a moment's notice. And that was what Yuichi experienced. Like, he could have been anywhere in that room, he could have gone for anybody, but the moment that that ball was flying through the air, he was there, he was ready for it, and he struck it. And yes, he technically went for the person that was the most threat to him, which was Kita. It doesn't feel as if it's trying to be too heavy on the concept of giving up yourself in order to be like this almost one-track mind, very vicious self. But it does seem like Yuichi does act in a way that he doesn't really realize that he's doing it when he's doing it. Again, he's becoming a different person, or as Meguru kind of puts it, is he's becoming the beast that that's inside of him or whatever. Will that lead to, man, you're pretty heartless, and him going, crap, yeah, I guess I am kind of heartless? I'm not sure. It played a little bit in that with Kita. But I think what they're going with is the idea of people that are all becoming so focused on being the winner that their ego overtakes them. It's exactly what Jinpachi says. You need to let that ego overtake you. But the question is, will it be like contemplating, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Or will it just become a, damn, he just pulled that off? Which I think is probably more the later. In the end, I'm kind of mixed. There was some great moments in the episodes. Surprised me quite a bit in certain episodes. The animation really does sell it at times. But at the same time, there was quite a bit of points throughout this first 2 episodes that were kind of a shrug. I will also say that if Jinpachi was voiced by anybody else than who they got, I probably would be really annoyed by him by now. All that said, I'm looking forward to more. It's going to be running for 2 cores, so there's going to be plenty of content here. Hopefully, again, some really cool stuff. But I hope you guys enjoyed my impressions of the series. If you did, make sure to hit that like button down below. Comment. Let me know what thought of the series. You're going to be checking it out. Additionally, if you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you get all my content. I do news, reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you want to support the channel more, we have a Patreon link, a tips link, and a super thanks button down below. I greatly appreciate everybody that considers, and y'all take care.